Tonight we are talking about P. Diddy. What does his arrest and indictment have to do with our country, politics, and Christian living in this perverse world we find ourselves in? A lot, more than we realize. Plus, another pastor falls into sin and is removed. Steve Lawson is the latest casualty in the pulpit. What should the church do with pastors who fall into sin? We will discuss on this, your favorite night of the week, The Deep End on Tim Hatch Live. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. Monday nights now, The Deep End exists on, and it is Season 7, Episode 39. Do you like Monday nights? Let me know in the comments to the right or below. We used to be on Tuesday nights, but I thought waiting till Tuesday is too long. My name is Tim. I'm your host, and welcome to Tim Hatch Live. Click the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified every time we go live. By the way, just so we are all on the same page, this content is for educational purposes only, and we need to discuss P. Diddy. Sean Love Combs, the 54-year-old, is in major trouble, and he looks to be Jeffrey Epstein Part 2. Crazy. Let's talk about it on
Deep End News. The news you choose if you could choose news.
Once again, there is a common connector between the halls of power and entertainment, and it's all surrounding sex-starved celebrities and politicians, this time centered around the notable Sean Puffy Combs, who a year ago got a key to the city of New York from Mayor Eric Adams. Here's that moment on video, just so you can see for yourselves that it took place.
Around 11:30, the doors open for the mayor and the artist.
The bad boy of entertainment is getting the key to the city from the bad boy of politics.
I want to thank y'all for this honor and just recognizing me being from New York, giving me the key to the city. Diddy finally has the key to the city.
Yes, a more clear representation that America is the whore of Babylon from Revelation 18 I cannot find. So, yes, Sean Diddy Combs was arrested and indicted on charges of sex trafficking, abuse, drug possession, and racketeering in the Southern District of New York. The indictment includes allegations of his involvement in a criminal enterprise that used coercion and threats to exploit victims. Diddy is accused of organizing freak-offs. These are elaborate sex acts involving victims and commercial sex workers. Searches of his Miami and Los Angeles homes in March 2024 revealed evidence, including over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and other items used in these acts. Diddy pleaded not guilty to all charges during a court hearing. If convicted, he could face anywhere from 15 years to life in prison. His defense team proposed a $50 million bail package, but that bail package was denied by the judge, citing the seriousness of the charges. Prosecutors claimed that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise using his influence and wealth to intimidate and exploit victims. The case draws comparison to other high-profile racketeering cases involving organized crime. The government claims to have testimonies from dozens of witnesses and significant physical evidence, including narcotics, firearms, and electronic recordings of the acts. Prosecutors argue that Diddy's wealth and access to resources make him a flight risk, which is why bail was denied. The indictment itself reads, for 4 decades, Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, a.k.a. Love. I'm sorry, but if you have that many names, there's something seriously wrong with you. The defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees' resources and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in an attempt to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Gigantic yikes. My word, this man is filthy dirty. Please remember these facts when celebrities tell you who to vote for. So those are the facts of the case, but there's news coming out left, right, and center. One particular headline that caught our eye here on the Deep End Research team: did Diddy use the rich and famous to hide in plain sight? Star enjoyed A-list endorsements from Obama to Oprah Winfrey and British royals. This article notes that brand and culture expert Nick Edie said Diddy manipulated people, including the British royals. He said, quote, Diddy was a clever manipulator who used his status and fame and money to gain access to the most important people on the planet. Aligning himself with royalty and government enables him to almost become untouchable, hiding in plain sight, something that we have come to recognize as a similar trait with both Epstein and Weinstein. Combs has been an central figure in Hollywood for decades, and his inner circle has included the likes of Jay-Z, Beyonce, Usher, Rick Ross, Justin Bieber. He also has a reputation for throwing the best parties, court documents have claimed. His extravagant 50th birthday bash held at Beverly Hills Mansion in 2019 saw Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Leonardo DiCaprio, Pharrell. Snoop Dogg also appeared as a cultural ambassador. He also appeared as a cultural ambassador at this year's Olympics in attendance. In 2007, he was pictured with Prince William and Prince Harry at a post-concert celebration the Royals hosted to thank all those who took part in a concert for Diana at Wembley Stadium. Earlier this year, Prince Harry's name appeared in U.S. court documents related to a $30 million lawsuit claiming Diddy is a sexual abuser of men and women. Combs is now behind bars. $50 million bail bid was thrown out. The rapper has been accused of hosting these sex parties, referred to as freak-offs. Yeah, so on and on it goes. Footage of Combs with a then 15-year-old Bieber has resurfaced online as the rapper was arrested on sex trafficking charges. X and Twitter users have branded the footage creepy. In the clip, Combs stands next to the young pop sensation and tells the camera he's having 48 hours with Diddy where we hanging out, and what we're doing we can't really disclose. But it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. The hip-hop mogul, 54, adds, I've been given custody of him. He's signed to Usher. And I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. Diddy continues, I don't have legal guardianship of him, Bieber, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me and we're going to go full crazy. Just sad stuff here. One of the Department of Homeland Security agents who helped raid the rapper's Miami mansion claimed there were rooms with the property solely dedicated to sex with cameras placed all around. Speaking to the New York Police Department, the unnamed federal source said if you were attending and participating in Diddy's sex parties or so-called freak-offs, you were recorded from every possible angle, including angles you wouldn't have known about. The singer's freak-offs allegedly saw drugged-up women being forced to sleep with male prostitutes in scenarios that Combs orchestrated, filmed, and pleasured himself to. In my opinion, he's as bad as Jeffrey Epstein, the source added, referring to the late pedophile's disgraced financier. So this is just disgusting, and it is a picture of what we say about our country, right? People like me, old school, fundamental, Bible-thumping preachers. Our country is sick, twisted, and the halls of power and media and influence and entertainment are all in it together. It is sick and disgusting, and you need to be aware of it because these are the influences coming into your kids' brains, eyes, hearts every day through social media, through TikTok, through unfiltered internet access. By the way, it's not the first sign of trouble for Diddy. He has been credibly accused in lawsuits of sexual abuse by 2 women and 2 men. And one of those accusers is a producer for his latest album, The Love Album. The name of the producer is Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr. He alleged Combs forcibly touched and attempted or threatened to touch Jones' intimate areas and touched Jones with his own intimate body parts while they worked on the album. And notably, Jones also cites that Cuba Gooding Jr. was involved and added him to the lawsuit alleging sexual abuse by both Diddy and Gooding Jr. This is where our country is in terms of the entertainment world. You've got to just use discernment, and you've got to cut entertainment out. I mean, that's the first thing I want to say pastorally. These people are twisted and sick, and they have got too much money and too much influence and too much fame. It corrupts. You've heard the saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, Diddy is somewhere between power and absolute power because he gained power by using those cameras to film politicians and notable celebrities in questionable behavior and engaging in sex acts that they would be ashamed of while drugged. People sometimes waking up and not remembering what they did for a week from one of these freak-offs hosted at Diddy's homes. This is Jesse Waters talking about how the rooms of Diddy's house were wired and cameras were added to get notable celebrities in trouble. Watch.
Your thoughts on this story here.
So it wasn't just this guy that was saying it. Lil Rod, the former producer, filed the lawsuit, and he said every room in Diddy's mansions were wired with cameras. And he had some of the footage, he had some of the pictures, and he displayed those in the lawsuit that came out. And this was used for blackmail material. They'd bring in these people. A lot of these people were also aspiring young artists in the music industry. And then these parties were sponsored by Motown Records CEO, Universal Records CEO. This goes all the way to the top. And so you get these people in compromising situations. The drinks were laced. The videotapes were hot. And then at the end of the day, you wake up the next morning, what did I do? And then they have compromising material on you. And then they can guide your career. They could kill your career, but they got you. And it wasn't just people in the music business. As you said, there were athletes, there were celebrities, there were politicians, people from the royal family. And we were also told by the former bodyguard that Diddy was an FBI informant. Whoa. So he was a snitch and was feeding information to the
Fed. Sorry, the video got cut off, but nonetheless. So we know that there is just this cabal of conspiracy, if you will, and manipulation and sexual deviancy that is at the root of all that we see coming through our television sets, and our music industry is full on in it. It is sick and twisted. We've got to be aware, and we've got to stop being ignorant Christians. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. And by the way, Jesse Waters mentions Diddy's bodyguard. In April of this past year, he talked about the fact that Diddy was already on suicide watch and was wrestling with God and the devil. Watch.
And when they come out with this other stuff, he gonna come back to work. I wouldn't be surprised if he do the ultimate sin, is suicide. Because bruh, he's such a narcissistic that he couldn't stand not being somewhere and not being seen.
He can't imagine not being seen. And at the root of the troubles that we see in our culture, there is a narcissistic issue. Paul warned Timothy, in the last days, people will be lovers of self. So narcissism is at work in all of these twisted realities of our current culture. He does have supporters. This is Freddie P. He's an ex-member of Puff Daddy's group, and he speaks about how Diddy was a victim of not living his true self. See if you could just imagine where this argument is going.
And I felt bad in a sense because he was only trying to feed his family. You get what I'm saying? And he became a victim, and it turned him into a monster just trying to hide his own secrets and not living his truth. And now he in prison just from all this comes from one man not living his truth. I swear to God. Had Puffy just been who he is at heart, it might have been a few jokes. We joked about RuPaul. He's still a boss. You get what I'm saying? I feel bad for the people that got hurt trying to hide his secrets. All the people that have been victimized, all the people that have been put under the influence so they don't remember certain things because of who he is. And as long as you're under the influence, it ruins your credibility of speaking about anything. So I can understand why he probably kept drugs in the party.
Yeah, so Diddy just should have come clean and been an open homosexual. That's basically what he is saying. And because society frowns on homosexuality, although it doesn't anymore, has anybody been paying attention for the last 30 years? Because, let's be honest, because Christians, biblical Christians and Catholics, they don't support homosexuality. P. Diddy was shoved into the closet and therefore decided to have these 1,000 bottles of baby oil freak-offs with celebrities and notable people in power. And that's the real problem. You see, he just needs to live his true self, live his authentic self. Well, when you look back in the history of things for the last 30 years, all of the madness was hidden in plain sight. We know that Diddy had a affinity for young, rising, singing celebrities such as Justin Bieber and Usher. We know that this is also part of the Hollywood movement. I mean, they when you think about what is coming out in terms of conspiracy or alleged issues with pedophilia in Hollywood, and then you look back over the last 30 years of Hollywood's expression on award shows, in talk shows, you see it. It was there all along. Like, for instance, this video montage of celebrities just molesting basically openly and sexually grooming openly Justin Bieber. Watch this. There's Pink just like kissing his neck and then grabbing his backside during an award show.
I feel violated right now.
I mean, he's a kid.
Apparently wanted to know what a Bieber butt felt like.
Katy Perry? I forget who this guy is.
Thank you. How old are you? I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks. Never remember something about doing 16. Wow, that's all right.
here on Ellen, showing him a picture of himself naked.
Well, my husband never gave me the sex talk. Okay. So why don't you give me the sex talk? I feel uncomfortable right now. Oh. Why do you want to know the sex talk from a 15-year-old boy? That's pretty weird.
Yeah, sick.
Things on blast, you know.
You want to say it again? You have beautiful lips.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank
It's
you,
like,
bro.
oh, you have great lips.
Thank you.
Just wear condoms. Yeah, serious.
I don't know how much I can take more of this. This is.
You know? I don't want her to go through anything I went through.
There he is talking about the fact that, Billie Eilish seems to be in the same vein as his history. This is the time when Diddy was checking Bieber for a wire, people allege, because watch how he kind of puts his hand all over his chest, taps him in several areas to see if he's being recorded through this conversation. This video here next is Diddy talking about the fact that he has a private island where you will experience things that we can't speak about on this show.
Yeah.
Very first time.
Yeah, I have an island. This is just for inspirational, motivational uses only. You know what I'm saying? You don't know a lot of black men that come from the hood. They got an island. I got an island. It's called Love Island. So when I took you to Love Island, and then you realize that the plane landed, and then we had to float to another island. What was going through your head when we were going there?
I was gonna go to war by this nigga, man.
What was your favorite time that I took you off the grid? When you going off the grid with me, you got to go to sleep for a week.
That party for a week because you're drugged and you can't even recover. You can't even get back to normalcy for quite some time. And could it be that he was also involved with the Kardashians? Yes, of course it could be. She actually talked about in the Keeping Up with the Kardashians show. Can't believe I'm talking about all this stuff. Where Khloe went to a place where all kinds of people were naked and P. Diddy was the host. I have that right here. Watch.
Yes. So who was with you this weekend? A bunch of my friends. Diddy, Quincy, Justin Bieber, so far French Montana. Do you even know half the people you're naming? No. If you were seriously dating somebody, would you tell No. You have to get these margaritas out of here. Why aren't you drinking? Yeah, but last night. She didn't go to bed. I haven't been to bed yet. You haven't? I want to be Clay when I grow up, Court. Oh, you're just so little. Like my balls are just going. I got on a plane at 5:30 a.m. Go to this party. I think half the people there were butt naked. You would have loved it.
Yeah, so there you go. Talking about P. Diddy freak-offs. That's basically what's being talked about here, celebrated here. These are the entertainment leaders of our culture. Let us never forget that the Kardashians are famous for being famous. Chrissy Teigen and John Lennon, legend, also admit to having intercourse at something called the Obama thing that was hosted by P. Diddy. Watch this moment.
And answer.
Public place, you did it. Is this the best or the worst? What do you do?
The best.
Okay, the best. Probably the Obama thing.
John.
Oh, listen to him.
Oh God.
Oh God.
John.
What?
What is your wife talking about?
I don't know.
We heard Obama in there.
Chrissy, get back here. What happened?
We're not going to discuss that.
We're not going to discuss it?
We're not. We're not.
Okay.
Oh my God. Secret Service.
Why not?
Come here, jump back in.
Hi.
Look at John.
Hi.
We're not talking about it.
Yeah, why not? Why can't we talk about it at all? Why is he so uncomfortable in that moment? Why does he seem like he's been told not to talk about it? There's also the issue with Usher. Usher showed up on the Howard Stern show many years ago to talk about Puffy Flavor Camp, where he arrived at age 13. This was his first experience with Diddy's culture. And notice at the end, when Howard asks if he'd allow his kid to be there. Watch
Yes,
this.
that's what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans.
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary
okay?
J. Blige. They didn't know nothing about this.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
See?
So that is the status of our celebrity culture. It has deteriorated into such enormous rot, we have no idea. And this is what we can know. This is what we can see hidden in plain sight for the past, 30 years of important cultural figures being interviewed by other notable cultural figures. This is why we have to be people who understand that we are not of this world. So the conspiracy now, and it will become truth eventually, is that many notable power figures are in bed with P. Diddy. And this matters for our elections, our nation, and what we believe and how we perceive the laws. Never forget that P. Diddy also assaulted his girlfriend as far back as 2016. We have video evidence of it here. Watch.
Shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016. A lawsuit filed by Ventura in November last year and settled the next day referenced actions that seem to match those seen in this video.
This is from 2016.
There is no audio.
This man has just been doing this openly. And now he's arrested. Now he's arrested, finally, in 2024. And I wish I could say that the church was immune from all of this controversy. That is not true. Diddy also was very good friends with one Pastor T.D. Jakes of the Potter's House Church in Dallas. He teamed up with the rap icon to bring sermons to Combs' cable network called Revolt, which he founded in 2013. Jakes and Combs announced the series Kingdom Culture during the coronavirus lockdowns. The show aired Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on P. Diddy's television station. So, yes, the floodgates are indeed opened. Now people are going to come forward and talk to you even more openly about all of the nonsense that went on behind the scenes. One person of note is rapper Jaguar White. She says Diddy better start snitching on the powerful celebrities in his circle. Watch.
Will Diddy start snitching?
He better. But the only thing I'm interested in him talking about is everything he knows about Kathy Coriana White.
Listen to this.
See, I know you know what happened to Corey. Diddy, I know that. You and Jay-Z. Down in Vegas at Tao with Claudia. Why don't you just talk about Kathy? That might help. That might help a lot. Kathy Coriana White, Jay-Z's pregnant mistress, who died 24 hours after she announced that she was going public with their relationship and the baby. While he was there.
That is pretty interesting and potentially damning evidence. Also, Jaguar White was talking about how Usher helped Diddy get control of Justin Bieber in another clip that surfaced recently. Watch.
Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours.
That is also, again, more allegations potentially damning of P. Diddy with regards to sexual molestation of a minor. Because as you heard in earlier clips, Justin Bieber was 15 years old and even younger at the time his celebrity started to rise. Now, there's also this woman, a woman named Allie Carter, who is the alleged daughter of Tupac Shakur, took to a podcast with Z Media back in December 2021 to talk about, and this is sick and twisted, blood and human body parts in the house where these alleged freak-offs took place at Diddy's residence, and also included satanic rituals. Just watch what she reports here.
Is this a satanic ritual that they are participating in?
Yes. Yes, there's people who want to, there's people who have sex with animals, dead animals. I was taken and told that I had to give a job to Biden.
So Joe Biden was there at this shrine.
Something happened. I don't know what happened. I was down there for a while. There's certain people that you don't talk about because you just don't.
So interesting allegations, no doubt, are bound to come forth more and more as the days move on. And of course, we just have to wait for the other shoe to drop. That would be when P. Diddy suddenly, quote unquote, commits suicide. Because strange deaths are not actually that strange when it comes to exposing Hollywood's disgusting nature. There was this TikTok creator, Kylie Marissa Roth. She died in she died in April of 2024, but her cause of death was only revealed in August of 2024, 4 months later. But this woman would repeatedly post videos about P. Diddy's exploits and illegal activities. People magazine saying Roth gained traction on TikTok for posting blind items about celebrities and sharing her often strong and controversial opinions on celebrity drama. She was known for her catchphrase, "You want more, I'll give you more." So people go missing. People die when they start to expose these realities. Who was P. Diddy connected with in the halls of power? Well, remember Kamala Harris thanking P. Diddy for hosting a town hall. There is also pictures of him here with the royal family. That would be Prince Harry, at least. There he is, kind of whispering sweet nothings into Prince Harry's ear. He was the interviewer for MTV News of Hillary Clinton during the 2008 DNC. 2004 DNC. He also was a friend of Trump's and was involved in the right side of politics, or at least the current right side of politics. He interviewed Barack Obama and celebrated when he won his election in 2008. He's a friend of Oprah Winfrey's, and all of this shows us all of the connectedness of one Pete Diddy. And you say, okay, you're a pastor. What are you talking about all this for? In other words, what does this information tell us? What does it have to do with us? Well, I think that we have to address a couple of things. Number one, Hollywood and Washington and the elite class of our global world in this society, they are all intertwined in ways that we could never imagine. And when a celebrity endorses a candidate, now you know why. And I'm not talking about the fact that they are just, hitched to them because they party with them. I'm talking about the fact that oftentimes there is something that the party has on them. The cultural elites can use against them. So sometimes these endorsements are just programmed endorsements to make sure that you are influenced by the people who have the goods on those particular celebrities. And when it seems the news has a narrative that's handed down to them from some nefarious fountainhead, some singular, leader, if you will, now you know why. And none of this should surprise us as Christians, because Paul says this to Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:24. The sins of some people are conspicuous. That means that they're out there and you can see them, going before them to judgment, but the sins of others appear later. In other words, you don't have the full story yet. You don't want to mess with the things of this world because the things of this world are far more dangerous and dastardly than you can imagine. Ephesians chapter 5 tells Christians to do one simple thing. Well, two things, actually. Number one, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness. But number two, expose them. And then this, It is shameful to even speak of the things that they do in secret. Even in this video, you've seen me uncomfortable showing you these things. I only show you these things so that you can be informed from a Christian worldview on how to handle the news that is coming out. And then Paul goes on in Ephesians and he says, when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. Therefore, it says, awake, O sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. What is Paul's point here? He's talking to Christians. He's saying you've got to stay away from the things of darkness. You've got to start exposing the things of darkness. And then you yourself have to awaken. Christians, we cannot be asleep to this world. We cannot let it seduce us, because there is indeed a seductive quality to the celebrity culture. Even pastors and leaders, T.D. Jakes being one of them. I think of Carl Lentz with Hillsong and his involvement with celebrity culture just a few years ago. These seducing qualities of our culture, we've got to be on our guard against, right? We have to watch out what we are watching or who we are watching, because it gets into us. And this is nothing new even in Old Testament times. Ezekiel writes in chapter 8, verse 12, the Lord said to him, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of the house of Israel are doing in the dark, each in his room of pictures? For they say, the Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land. He also said to me, you will still see greater abominations that they commit. In other words, just simplifying this for you Christians, what we are seeing now is nothing compared to what we will see soon enough. What trend is the culture taking? Where is it going? It's not going into a more pure environment. It's not going into a more godly environment. It's getting worse and worse by the day. And when people are exposed, like Jeffrey Epstein or Harvey Weinstein, or in this case, Sean Combs, there's a reason for it. Those people potentially crossed a line that the global elitists did not want them to cross, or exposed something that they did not want them to expose. And at the end of the day, even these kind of figureheads are expendable to the global powers that will eventually take over the world's stage. Yes, they will. I've read Revelation, I've studied Revelation, and I've seen it on the text. We're going to see this wicked whore of Babylon arise in the last days and seduce the nations. I do believe it is America. I do believe America will have that part to play in the tribulation, that as the world coalesces around one government, as the world coalesces around one economic system, think Bitcoin, as the world coalesces around, one world leader to hold us together and bring us forward into some, new age of enlightenment, or, whatever you want to say, utopian world class. You have to see the whore of Babylon is there seducing the nations all along the way. Because when we are seduced by entertainment figures and the products that they give us, we are susceptible to our own sinful inclinations. And that brings me to church news, because as 1 Peter 4:17 warns us, it is time for judgment to begin where? In the house of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome of those who do not obey the gospel of God? So we have to talk about this guy, Steve Lawson. He is a notable Reformed preacher and pastor of Trinity Bible Church in Dallas, Texas, and he was removed this past week from ministry. The elders of the church making this announcement, regrettably, that Steve Lawson, has been removed indefinitely from all ministry activities. Several days ago, this is the writing from the elders, they were informed by Steve Lawson of an inappropriate relationship that he had with a woman. The elders have met with Steve and will continue to come alongside him and pray for him with the ultimate goal of his personal repentance. Steve no longer will be compensated by the church. These continual falls from grace amongst our pastoral class seem to be rapidly increasing. Can I ask you, pray for me, okay? Because I'm a pastor and I see the writing on the wall with regards to the enemy's tactics, and I want to be above board and I want to avoid these disasters. Steve Lawson was a notable figure in Reformed circles, as I said, friends and I guess you would call compatriots with John MacArthur. Albert Mohler, R.C. Sproul, among others. He was a repeated speaker at John MacArthur's Shepherds Conference down in Southern California. And you know, friends, the internet is forever. This is the worst part of our current cultural moment. Here's a video of Steve a few years ago talking about the foolishness of giving up your life in ministry for 15 seconds of pleasure. Watch.
You are the fool of all fools. For 15 seconds of gratification. To now, you're no longer a pastor. And now you have a job at the drugstore. Now you're out on the streets. And now you have a paper route. What a fool you were to sacrifice an entire life of ministry for 20 seconds of sin.
By the way, Steve Lawson's 73 years old. Think about that. He's not in his midlife crisis. He's not in the heightened sexual desires of your 20s and 30s. He's 73 years old. He's on the way out. He's almost completed his job. He's almost completed his witness. Friends, the devil spares no expense and no sheep. He will go after anyone, no matter how long you've been around, no matter how faithful you've been. And yes, as Steve just said, that one moment of pleasure sacrifices everything. Now, there's also something notable about the past few falls from grace amongst the pastoral elites of our culture. For those of you who don't know, there is a great divide amongst the pastors of our culture between the people who, they want to be faithful to the Bible and biblical exposition and verse-by-verse analysis of the text, which I'm a big fan of, and those who want to reach culture with a very attractive style of ministry and want to speak the language of the people and be available for them where they are and kind of address Scripture, but not make it the central portion of their messages. Now, I would put those kinds of people on this kind of spectrum where you have John MacArthur over here on this extreme, and then you would have maybe a Joel Osteen over here on the other extreme. And what I have watched for the past 20 years of my life is this constant attack from one side upon the other. The biblical faithful expositors attacking the Joel Osteens of the world. In fact, Steve notably is remembered for doing so at one Shepherds Conference hosted by Grace Community Church in Southern California and hosted by John MacArthur. And here's how that moment went down, where he was addressing some comments that Osteen said on Larry King, saying he didn't know about people in India, about their religion, about whether they would go to hell or heaven. And that moment was very impactful. In fact, what Steve says is probably correct, but it was a jab at Joel Osteen. And I just want you to see it yourself. Here's what happened.
I don't know if I believe they're wrong.
He's quoting Osteen here.
I spent a lot of time in India with my father. I don't know about all their religion, but I know they love God. No, they don't. They hate God. I don't know. I've seen their sincerity so on worldwide television, so I don't know. Give us some men who know the truth.
That moment is very rare, by the way, for John MacArthur's church. There is no audience response. In fact, they actually discourage that from the people. They don't want certain portions of the message to be heightened and others to be ignored, and I value their interpretation of that. But I am reminded of how often I have seen popular preachers, and I would say those exegetical expositors, if you will, those guys who believe they are the true pastors of culture, repeatedly and unashamedly publicly condemned Joel Osteen and considering him disqualified from ministry. I mean, I think about the fact that Mark Driscoll did it, and a few years back, he was disgraced from his pulpit in Seattle at Mars Hill. I think about Tullian Chividian, who I met personally and also was disgraced with an adulterous affair while he was serving at Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church, and he would publicly at his own conference condemn Joel Osteen from the stage. And actually talk about writing books that would counter the Joel Osteen message of your best life now. And I think about these pastors and I think, you know who's still standing? Joel Osteen. I mean, look, I'll be the first to say that Joel Osteen, as he preaches, not my personal preference, but he's still there. So far, so good. I don't know if we should be in the business, guys, pastors, leaders, of constantly throwing arrows at other professing pastors and leaders. And for those of you who are going to drop comments and tell me about how, many ways that Joel Osteen doesn't preach the truth, I get your argument. But when we use our pulpit to condemn other pastors, I think we're wading into dangerous ground. Remember that Jesus himself said, be careful how you judge, for in the same measure you judge others, you will be judged. In other words, if you feel proud condemning Joel Osteen, don't be surprised if public condemnation comes upon you. And we got to talk about one more thing in this regard. It's one of the topics that's near and dear to my heart, which is, does a once-off affair, not affair, I hate the word affair, adultery, let's call it what the Bible calls it. Does a once-off adultery experience disqualify a pastor forever from ministry? It's an important question. Tully Javidian doesn't believe that because he started a church just about 20 minutes north of the church that he was pastoring when he was disgraced. And other pastors, such as Mark Driscoll, have relocated to other parts of the country and started new churches even after having these sins exposed in their ministry. But what should the official church stance be? Here's the problem with Protestantism. We don't have a Vatican. We don't have a pope. We don't have somebody speaking ex cathedral for us. So we have to go to the text. And one of the texts that is kind of the proof text for permanent disqualification from ministry, I know it. It's 1 Corinthians 9:24, where Paul says, do you not know in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run so that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air. And then this line, I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. Okay, here's my question about this text. Does that disqualified sentence, let me put myself over here. Does that disqualified sentence say, or mean that if he fails in one area one time that he is permanently disqualified from ministry forever? I don't see it in the text, and somebody has to show me a text where it is shown, because I'll be open to that interpretation. And I am not at all excusing Steve Lawson's behavior or any pastor who has fallen into adulterous behavior with another woman. I'm not excusing it. It's terrible. It's unbiblical, it's godless, it's evil, it's from the devil, 100% wrong. There should be a removal from ministry. There should be a restoration process. There should be, how about this, a recovery process for pastors to come back to ministry, provided that they have completed that recovery process with fellow elders in the church giving oversight to such a process. You see, sometimes they want, this is the problem, of course, in the church world, and I've seen it. The elders do want to come alongside and restore the pastor, but the pastor, gets angry and prideful and just kind of removes himself from the church altogether and runs and starts a church somewhere else, or the conditions for restoration are so high, so impossible, it almost causes the pastor to run from the restoration process. But we do have a biblical text that talks about restoration in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourselves, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So there should be restoration. And by the way, there's no qualifier in that text for whether or not it's a pastor or a non-pastor in the church. Where does Paul say in the text, except for pastors? If pastors are caught in a transgression, then they are permanently removed from ministry. And I understand, too, the stipulations regarding pastors being the husband of one wife, being a faithful one-woman man, and he should be. But there are many pastors who would be disqualified on other basis points that Paul mentions in 1 Timothy and in Titus, like greedy for gain. How many pastors are greedy for gain, bilking the people for money constantly because they want to fund their jets and their lavish lifestyle? How many pastors are full of pride and not gentle, are harsh and condemning to the congregants instead of a good shepherd laying down their lives for the sake of the sheep? How many pastors have failed in those other qualifying items in those in those lists that Paul marks out for Timothy and Titus. And we say nothing, we do nothing, and we allow it to go on in perpetuity in some cases. You see, we've got to have a fairness here. We've got to have a doctrine of equality when it comes to sin. Should a pastor fall into adulterous sin, it is egregious, it is wrong, it is inexcusable. But can it not be a life sentence of removal from ministry? That's my question. I'm not even sure that I have a solid answer for you, but I think the discussion should take place because, and this is really my heart about this, when we remove them permanently from ministry, we remove an effective advocate for the gospel. We remove an effective ambassador for Christ for the rest of his life. Maybe 30, 40 years of ministry could be had by a man who has messed up. He really, sinned terribly. But we restored him, and now look, 30, 40 years later, there's ministry and there's a history of faithfulness to the work of God. We've got to have that discussion. Anyway, that's the show for tonight for the free content. We got all kinds of political content in the extra content, and you're going to want to sign up at patreon.com/TimHatchLive for as little as $10 a month to support our work here. You can see that right now on our Patreon, patreon.com/TimHatchLive. We support Project Rescue and American Bible Society when you support us, and I'm so glad that you are here. May God help the church navigate these waters of sick infestation in the Whore of Babylon, because the time is short. Jesus is coming, and we need to be ready. Amen.